There will be now an opportunity for silent prayer or meditation. Please be seated. The Secretary will read the order.
On vote number 32, Forestry, Fisheries and the Environment Appropriation Bill.
I now invite the Honourable the Minister of Forestry, Fisheries and the Environment to the podium.
Honourable House Chair, Ministers present, Deputy Ministers Swartz and Singh, Honourable Chairperson of the Portfolio Committee on Forestry, Fisheries and Environment, Ngabisa Gancho, and committee members, members of Parliament, chairpersons, board members and CEOs of our entities, Director General Ms. Nomfundo Shabalala, Team Forestry, Fisheries and Environment, fellow South Africans. Today I rise not only to open Budget Vote 32, the first budget of the Department of Forestry, Fisheries and Environment in the 7th Administration, but to chart a path that secures our natural heritage, uplifts communities and powers inclusive, sustainable growth. This budget is a direct investment in the air we breathe, the oceans that feed us, the biodiversity that sustains us, and the green jobs that will define our future. We meet at a time when the global climate crisis continues to disrupt economies, ecosystems, and lives. South Africa is responding. Under the Government of National Unity and through my department, we are driving forward with purpose, protecting natural resources while unlocking their economic potential. The environment is not a cost to the state. It is a contributor to growth, a job creator, and a foundation for public health and economic resilience. Every rand we spend through this budget must deliver on that promise. As chair of the G20 Environment and Climate Sustainability Working Group, I have proudly positioned South Africa as a global leader on climate resilience, biodiversity protection, and ocean governance. Through this budget, and guided by the Medium-Term Development Plan, we are advancing 3 core national priorities: driving inclusive growth and job creation, reducing poverty and the cost of living, and building a capable, ethical, and developmental state. This budget vote is tabled in the context of a constrained fiscal environment. Following the reversal of the proposed VAT increase in May 2025, the national budget framework was revised, with consolidated government spending projected to grow from 2.4 trillion in 24-25 to 2.81 trillion in 27-28. Despite this upward trend, the department's 25-26 allocation is 9.08 billion, only 0.35% of the national appropriation, our lowest share since 2016-17. When adjusted for inflation, this reflects a real decrease of 121.5 million, or 1.4% compared to last year. In short, the department is being asked to do more with less. Yet we are focused on delivery. Nearly half the department's medium-term budget, 14.5 billion rand, will go directly to goods and services, including the expanded public works program, implementation of the Forestry Master Plan, and rollout of the waste management strategy. Transfers and subsidies to public entities such as Sandby, Sandparks, Isimangaliso, and SA Weather Services will account for over 5.5 billion rand. This department is using every rand to protect ecosystems, grow green jobs, and meet the urgent demands of climate adaptation, regulation, and environmental justice. Honourable members, to achieve these imperatives, the department is focusing on 6 flagship priorities in the 25-26 financial year. These big 6 priorities shape our work, guide our partnerships, and define the strategic investments proposed in this budget vote. Number 1, climate change. Climate change is not a distant threat. It is here, disrupting our communities, economies, and ecosystems. We see it in the rising temperatures, intensifying floods, droughts, and fires that affect lives and livelihoods. Through the Climate Change Act, now in force, we have established a unified whole-of-government response to this urgent crisis. This year, we will deliver new nationally determined contributions, a revised low-emission development strategy, final sector emission targets, and implement the climate change adaptation response plan for vulnerable coastal regions. We've also completed the Highveld Air Quality Management Plan to ensure Eskom complies with air pollution laws, because the constitutional right to clean air cannot be compromised. Number 2, KISS, Kruger-Kirstenbosch Isimangaliso Icon Status Strategy. Our natural heritage is among South Africa's greatest assets. Through the KISS initiative, we're elevating 3 national icons, the Kruger National Park, Kirstenbosch Botanical Gardens, and Isimangaliso Wetland Park, into engines of ecological protection, job creation, inclusive tourism, and community empowerment. South Africa's biodiversity is a powerful engine for development. The revised National Biodiversity Economy Strategy will unlock 397,000 jobs and inject 127 billion rand annually into the economy by 2036 through ecotourism, bioprospecting, and sustainable game meat production. Number 3, filler, fair industries for lion, leopards, elephants, and rhinos. Protecting our iconic wildlife goes hand in hand with safeguarding livelihoods. The filler priority advances ethical and sustainable management of lions, leopards, rhinos, and elephants, species that are both culturally significant and economically vital. This year, we are finalizing the Elephant Heritage Strategy. Our enforcement efforts against wildlife trafficking are stronger than ever, improving collaboration across agencies. Number 4, fishing for freedom. South Africa's fisheries are lifelines for coastal and rural communities. Through Fishing for Freedom, we are securing sustainable access, supporting small-scale fishers, and combating illegal harvesting that threatens biodiversity and food security. We are fast-tracking signage, wreck removal, security, and road markings on the 12 proclaimed fishing harbours, implementing co-management systems for nearshore fisheries, and expanding SMME training in the small-scale fisheries sector. This is part of our revitalization of harbours, unlocking jobs and dignity for local communities. Number 5, Reset, which is a regulatory efficiency strategy for environmental turbocharge. Good governance is the backbone of environmental protection and economic growth. Reset is modernizing our regulatory framework to accelerate compliance, improve coordination, and enhance transparency. We're embedding the National Integrated Strategy to combat wildlife trafficking into our operations and ramping up inspections across sectors. Number 6, money. In the face of the budget cuts, the DFFE is doubling down on financial discipline and innovation to ensure every rand unlocks value for people and the environment. Our proactive spending review, initiated in October 2024, has identified significant cost-saving opportunities, aiming to redirect resources towards high-impact environmental and conservation initiatives. Each branch is now mandated to explore new revenue streams, reduce unnecessary expenditure, and secure sustainable financing. Work has also begun on draft regulations to unlock the value of carbon credits. This will lay the groundwork for monetizing environmental assets under the department's portfolio, supporting job creation, habitat conservation, private sector investment, and financing of priority programs. This marks a bold step towards positioning the DFFE as a national leader in environmental financing. To support this broader mandate, we've launched discussions with international donors, private partners, and philanthropists. The Green Fund, managed by the DBSA, continues to channel public funding into innovative climate, energy, and waste products. Our investment portal for the biodiversity economy has already spotlighted 59 bankable projects, leading to at least $450,000 in green finance committed. Honourable members, the department's entities continue to deliver exceptional impact, conserving our heritage, generating jobs, and building community resilience. Sandparks has placed inclusive development at the centre of its conservation mandate. Over the past 5 years, it has provided over 21,000 full-time jobs through the Extended Public Works Programme, supported 3,127 SMMEs, and delivered 2,264 animals to emerging game farmers, ensuring that protected areas become engines of opportunity for surrounding communities. Isimangaliso Wetland Park Authority is advancing its commercialisation strategy with 62 contracts already signed and new revenue from tourism concessions set to flow directly to the entity from 1 September 25. The South African Weather Services, our frontline in early warning systems, issued nearly 1,400 severe weather alerts last year and reached over 2 million vulnerable citizens through a targeted community radio program and 32 outreach events. These efforts not only save lives, but empower South Africans with climate information that they can act on. SANBI, South Africa's National Biodiversity Steward, continues to lead in climate finance. A $40 million Green Climate Fund project will launch this year, benefiting over 350,000 people directly and 1.5 million indirectly through investments in ecosystem-based disaster risk reduction. These achievements demonstrate that when we invest in our environmental entities, we invest in jobs, resilience, and a sustainable future. In closing, honourable members, this budget is not just about how we spend, it is about how wisely we invest. We are using public funds to deliver clean air, protect ecosystems that support life, and to create jobs in every corner of this country. But we cannot do it alone. I call on members across all benches to support this budget for the sake of the people we serve. Let this be a moment where Parliament unites to invest in resilience, inclusion, and environmental justice. To my Deputy Ministers, Naren Singh and Bernice Swartz, thank you for your partnership. To the dedicated public servants, scientists, rangers, monitors, engineers, and compliance officers across the department and our entities, thank you for your excellence, your commitment to service, and your willingness to do things differently and get things done. Together, we can grow a greener, more inclusive future for all South Africans. I thank you.
Thank you, Honourable Minister. Before I call the next speaker, I want to welcome the guest who's in the gallery, but I want to inform you that you are not allowed to make any recordings or take photographs. You need accreditation from Parliamentary Communication Services. We do have Parliamentary Communication Services that are covering all these events, and the intellectual property of what is happening here is the property of Parliament and to no one else. So please refrain from doing so if you have not been accredited. I now recognize the Honourable Gancho.
Thank you, Honourable Chairperson. Greetings to the Minister and the Deputy Ministers and to all members of Parliament who are here. Honourable Chairperson, we stand before you today to advocate for crucial budget allocation to the Department of Forestry, Fisheries and the Environment. This investment isn't just about departmental operations. It's about safeguarding South Africa's future by promoting low carbon, climate resilient, and inclusive economy. The recent enacted Climate Change Act provides a clear legislative framework outlining key proposals that demand our collective commitment. We recognize that climate resilience begins at the municipal level, and that is why we are leveraging the DDM to empower our communities, ensuring that they are better equipped to face future climate shocks. The Climate Change Act complements the District Development Model's approach to building climate resilience, while also enhancing planning and coordination to reduce impacts and recovery time. The agency of this mandate is underscored by the devastating extreme weather events that our beautiful country is experiencing more frequently and at higher intensities, particularly in KwaZulu-Natal, Eastern Cape, and Western Cape provinces. We extend our words of condolences to the families and communities that have lost loved ones in the Eastern Cape because of the extreme weather events. Our hearts also are with the families and communities that have missing persons and those currently affected by the heavy rains and flooding in the Western Cape and the Eastern Cape, which are causing costly damages and homelessness, necessitating significant government relief to support affected families. Honorable Chair, we urge all departments and municipalities to embrace a climate-friendly budget approach, integrating climate resilience into every aspect of their planning and expenditure. The 1.7 million allocation towards climate change legislation, resilience and adaptation within our budget is a vital starting point. It enables us to develop the necessary adaptation measures and build the capacity needed to navigate a changing climate. This is not merely an environmental imperative, it is an economic necessity. By investing in climate resilience now, we can protect our infrastructure, secure livelihoods, and foster sustainable growth, ensuring that South Africa not only withstands the challenges of a warming world, but also thrives in transition to a greener future. Honorable members, the recent floods disaster in the Eastern Cape has caused damages that exceed the allocated 5 billion towards assisting flood victims. We emphasize the need for the implementation of the long-standing resolution of the African National Congress, focusing on climate resilience, infrastructure, and finance solution to safeguard poor and vulnerable communities. We urge the decision-making teams to collaborate closely with the South African Weather Services, a key stakeholder in climate change response. The South African Weather Services plays a crucial role in disseminating early warning and advisories on weather forecasts. Early warning systems should lead to improved disaster preparedness, minimizing damage, loss of life, and destruction of livelihoods. Honorable members, South Africa's economic outlook remains weakened. This limits increased budget allocations to various government priorities. We thus understand the context behind 9.08 billion budget allocation to the Department of Forestry, Fisheries and the Environment for 2025-26 financial year. The entities of the department have been instrumental in advancing the environmental mandate. We are thus concerned by the decline in total transfers to the entities from 1.88 billion in the 2024-25 financial year to 1.75 billion in the 2025-26 financial year. The ANC remains concerned about the budget reduction to all entities in real terms. This will impact their ability to deliver critical services, including meteorological services and early warnings, as well as marine and inland fisheries management, parks and biodiversity management, and support for local jobs and economic development. As I conclude, Honorable Chairperson, we encourage our entities to double their efforts of reducing dependency on fiscals. We believe that they have the required capacity, as complemented by the department, to source external funding and generate sustainable revenue from their commercial products and services. As the ANC, we support the budget vote. Thank you, Honorable Chair.
Thank you, Honourable Member. The next speaker is the Honourable De Blok van Scheltinga.
Thank you, House Chairperson. Greetings to our Minister, Deputy Ministers, officials and guests in the gallery, and to the South Africans watching at home. During the State of the Nation address, President Cyril Ramaphosa reflected on the Intlulamiti scenarios, a visioning exercise that imagined 3 possible futures for our country. Each scenario was characterized by a carefully chosen South African bird. The worst case scenario is illustrated by vultures, a future marked by decay and rot, with politicians and state actors circling overhead, waiting to snatch their pound of flesh from a failing state. We've endured this vulturism before, in the form of state capture, cadre deployment, and endemic corruption across all spheres of government. The Hardy-Dar symbolizes the middle ground, or business as usual. Though less grim, it's far from ideal and certainly not benign. Government leaders make plenty of noise, but amid endless squabbling and grandstanding, little is achieved. South Africa drifts slowly backward, deeper into inequality, joblessness, and economic stagnation. The humble, sociable weaver was chosen to represent the only positive future for South Africa, and this is what President Ramaphosa chose to represent the formation of the Government of National Unity. These birds represent collaboration, growth, and productivity. Weavers are builders by nature, unmatched in their industrious construction. As a professional ornithologist and fanatical birdwatcher, of course, this analogy delighted me. I reflect on the metaphor again in December when I observed sociable weavers in Mokala National Park, one of the conservation areas under Minister George's purview. It remains a fitting image for today's debate on the Department of Forestry, Fisheries and Environment's budget and direction. Sociable weavers live in colonies of hundreds and work together to build the largest nest of any bird species in the world. This is achieved in one of the harshest landscapes on Earth, the Kalahari Desert. These structures are built in a canopy of scant trees and offer thermal relief from the Kalahari's extreme temperatures, both in the scorching summer and freezing winter. The nests are never complete. They are always being expanded and maintained. No weaver is left behind, and the colony defends itself collectively from all incoming threats. In much the same way, this department must operate under difficult conditions. This year's budget has been reduced and cannot meet its lofty ambitions, a unique and a ubiquitous and sobering reality for all national departments in the context of a near-stagnant economy. Overall, the department receives a real budget decrease of 1.4% when adjusted for inflation, despite those ambitions, meaning we have to do more with less. The task ahead is clear. We must maximize our outcomes through efficiency, innovation, and collaboration. One of the hardest hit areas is environmental programs, which deliver critical services such as alien clearing, fire prevention, and pollution cleanups. Environmental programs has faced a nominal increase, however, they face a real budget decrease of 20.5 million rand when adjusted for inflation. The department must urgently seek new partnerships and empower the private sector to step up in these spaces, such as through its waste management initiatives, where 70 million rand is allocated this year for enterprise support programs. This will ensure our ecosystems are not left to deteriorate, and these key services continue to create meaningful work opportunities for communities. Much like the Kalahari is expected to become even hotter and drier, climate change is already precipitating disasters across the country. And like the weaver's nest buffers against thermal extremes, this department must help build South Africa's resilience to climate shocks. Just recently, we witnessed the tragedy unfolding in the Eastern Cape, where unprecedented flooding swept across the province. Climate change is costing lives and livelihoods, and we must be better prepared to not only respond to disasters, but also to mitigate and prevent them proactively. But our duty does not end at our borders. We must lead and support regional and continental efforts too. Minister George has advanced this role with distinction, from his co-chairing at the recent UN Climate COP to his leadership of the Environment, Climate and Sustainability Working Group under the G20 during South Africa's presidency year. He's also secured 10 million rand for South Africa's G20 presidency environmental meetings. Sociable weavers also fertilize the land around them, creating vibrant micro-ecosystems that defy the apparent lifelessness of the Kalahari. This department has similar potential. Sound waste management policy focusing on upcycling and reuse turns pollution into profits and waste into jobs and energy. The multiplier effects do not end there. Sustainable development that leverages our rich biodiversity can generate long-term value without destroying the very resources we depend on. A green economy built around green jobs and green energy can be transformative, particularly for our country's most neglected but biodiverse regions. These are not abstract ideas. These are already taking shape through the department's reforms to environmental impact assessment processes, innovative approaches to waste management, and the revitalization of our fishing harbors into hubs of local economic growth, to name but a few of the department's recent successes. This first GNU budget for the environment is lean, yes, but it holds enormous potential, and we believe the Minister and his department will apply it with wisdom, driving job creation and inclusive growth while safeguarding our natural heritage and the communities that depend on it. The Weaver Nest is taking shape. Its builders are hard at work, preparing to weather scorching days and bitter nights to come. And while we can hear the howling hardy-dars and see the vultures circling overhead, the humble sociable weavers are getting down to business and building together towards something better for South Africa. We support the budget report, the critical work of the department, and we support our chief weaver, Minister Dr. Dion George. Thank you.
Thank you, Honourable Member. The next speaker is the Honourable Mkhize.
Honorable Chairperson, Minister George, Deputy Minister Swart and Singh, Honorable Chairperson of Portfolio Committee for Forest, Fisheries and Environment, Ms. Ngabisa Gancho, and our committee members, members of Parliament present, Chairperson, Board of Members of and CEOs of entities, our Director General, Ms. Namfundo Chabalala, Team Forestry, Fisheries and Environment, fellow South Africans. Maybe I'll need to apologize for some of the MK party members who were supposed to be present. Currently in Durban, we're having a memorial service as we lost one of our members from NCOP. Okay. Okay, no problem. Honorable members, today we debate the budget vote for the Department of Forest, Fisheries and Environment. As the MK party, we have conducted a strategic analysis for vote 32 and have identified several concerns that warrants attention. Underperformance and key concerns. The department has underperformed in key areas, including ocean and coast, and biodiversity and conservation, with achievement rates of 60% and 67% respectively. Delays in implementing the extended producer responsibility scheme and the slow rollout of the wildlife economy master plan are significant concerns. The climate change bill, while passed, requires budgetary support for operationalization. Financial review and audit outcomes. The Department of Forest, Fisheries and Environment received an unqualified audit with findings in 2023 and 2024. However, underspending over 385 million and irregular expenditure of 312 million over 2 financial years raised questions about financial management. Sunparks and Insmangaliso face liquidity stress, and conditional grants to provinces show weak absorption rate. The budget nominally increased by 3.9%, but really term declines in several programs are concerning. Program 5, Biodiversity and Conservation, saw a 6.5% real-term cut. Despite public commitment to expand protected areas, administrative costs remain disproportionately high, expending 17% of budget. The department's budget failed to reflect equity and transformation imperatives. Less than 10% of the EPWP budget is channeled to rural and former homelands communities. Women and youth-led environmental cooperatives remain largely unfunded, and the Black-owned SMMEs face procurement access barriers. the structure issues and misalignment. Systems weaknesses hinders DFFE's effectiveness, including unfunded mandates for provinces, poor coordination with Department of Agriculture and Land and Reformed, and disjointment of policy frameworks. The MK party holds that the 2025-2026 budget, vote 32, fails to reflect the constitutional and developmental mandate of the DFFE. We therefore advocate for conditional budget approval subject to progress of transformation and equity targets, increased allocation to biodiversity protection and environmental job creation, a full forensic audit of environment project spending over the last 3 years, legislative amendments to strengthen intergovernmental alignment and oversight of public entities. We urge the department to prioritize transformation, equity, and sustainability in its budget allocation and implementation. As Umkhonto weSizwe Party, we believe this regressive budget that takes no initiative to change the status quo and efforts to improve the livelihoods of the economically excluded. Therefore, as Umkhonto weSizwe, we reject this budget. Thank you.
Thank you, Honourable Member. The next speaker is the Honourable Manaka.
Ndolibuwa House Chair. It's the laptop. Thank you so much, House Chair, and allow me to take this opportunity to greet the most fearless, charismatic leader of our time, Mushabibo Julius Silo Malima, all the commissars and fighters that are out there. Ndichiringa bararame. As the economic freedom fighters, we approach every budget with revolutionary clarity and unshakable commitment to the working class, the landless, and the most vulnerable communities. The Department of Fisheries, Forestry and Environment's total budget allocation of 9.08 billion, an increase in nominal terms, but still 157.8 million short of what was projected in 2024 budget baseline for the same period. A deeper look into the allocation, House Chair, reveals a very disturbing trend. While the overall expenditure shows a minimal growth of 1.8, the inflation rate as of May 2025 was at 2.8, meaning that many of the programs are effectively experiencing budget cuts in real terms. House Chair, core public service programs, particularly those with direct impact on people's lives, such as fisheries, forestry management, as well as environmental programs, are being systematically underfunded. Mr. Minister, earlier you just said that the environment is a job creator. Yes, we do agree. However, we are now seeing that forestry management program, for example, is facing a budget cut of 3.2 in nominal terms, translating to a real-term reduction of over 6% when adjusted for inflation. How do you reconcile this reduction with the commitment to the environment, to the environmental job creation programs, particularly in the context of rural development and sustainable livelihoods? House Chair, this is a critical program for rural development, job creation, and climate resilience, yet the government is deprioritizing it. Fisheries management, which is the key to empowering coastal communities and supporting small-scale fishers, has received a decrease of 0.7%, amounting to 3.5% cut in real terms. These cuts come at a time when South Africa desperately needs equitable resource distribution and employment creation through sustainable natural resource management. Environmental programs with the highest potential to create labor-intensive jobs through ecological restoration and land rehabilitation have been also reduced by 0.5%. Chemical and waste management is facing a 2.4% cut despite rising urbanization, waste pollution, and the need to build a circular economy. What is the most shocking, however, is the stark contrast in how the department is allocating its limited resources. The administration program has been increased by 15.1%, more than 5 times the inflation rate. This reflects a bloated bureaucracy that is growing faster than the frontline services it meant to support. The state is once again privileging internal systems over public benefits. This technocratic approach reflects a government that is more invested in maintaining its internal machinery than in transforming the material conditions of our people out there. The EFF rejects this misallocation of public funds and calls for radical redistribution of the budget away from inflated administrative overheads and towards directed pro-poor and job creation investments. To safeguard essential public and environment service from the eroding impact of inflation, the EFF proposes a minimum reallocation of at least 260 million rands. This amount is necessary to restore real-term funding across the following key programs. Fisheries management requires an additional 22.1 million to support cooperatives, training, and fair access to marine resources for small-scale fishers. Forestry management needs 32.6 million to promote afforestation, agroforestry, as well as rural job creation. Chemicals and waste management must be increased by at least 34.3 million to expand pollution control, waste infrastructure. Environmental programs should receive further 92.2 million to support large-scale ecological restoration as well as public employment. Biodiversity on conservation alone, Honorable House Chair, requires 48.6 million to sustain protected areas and democratize access to biodiversity. Climate change and equality must be increased by 16.1 million to strengthen mitigation, adaptation, and public health strategies, whilst regulatory compliance and monitoring, which is the central environmental enforcement and anti-corruption, should be increased at least by 14.3 million rands. These increases are not luxurious, Honorable Chair. They are required to maintain the real services in the face of inflation. The EFF strongly asserts that this reallocation must be funded by cutting back on excessive administrative growth and by centering the budget on people, not bureaucracies. It's through the budget, Honorable Speaker, that the department can play its role and build a just, green, and inclusive economy. The working class must not be
Honourable
made
Member,
to pay
your time is now
for environment
expired.
and economic justice. I reject this budget, Honorable House Chair. Thank you so much.
Thank you. The next speaker is the Honourable Langa.
Thank you very much, House Chair, and greetings to the Minister, Dr. George, Deputy Ministers, Honorable Singh and Honorable Swartz, and also greetings to honorable members and the fellow South Africans. House Chair, the Nkatha Freedom Party welcomes this budget as it reflects an ongoing effort to respond to triple challenges of unemployment, inequality, and environmental degradation, all within the context of our constitutional obligation to protect the environment for future generations. We commend the department for its sustained commitment to preserving South Africa's rich environmental heritage while advancing inclusive socio-economic development. We are encouraged by the department's focus on creating jobs, In 2025-26, the department plans to spend 2.869 billion rands on environmental programs like Working for Water, Waste, Fire, Coast, and FinTech. These programs are expected to provide nearly 70,000 jobs across the country. This will help many families and invest in our environment and people. We also praise the department's youth programs, which have launched training initiatives for young people, including the Provincial Youth Graduate Program and the Municipal Graduate Program. These programs reach all 9 provinces and help build local environmental skills. This approach not only builds technical capacity in municipalities, but also provides young people with pathways into long-term careers in the green economy, an area the IFP strongly supports. This is not merely a line item. It represents hope and opportunity for thousands of South Africans, especially in rural and peri-urban communities. We commend the department for recognizing that our natural environment can be a powerful engine for employment, skills, development, and dignity. One of the most pressing challenges facing rural communities is the human-wildlife conflict, a complex issue in conservation areas across the country and a significant problem for rural communities. These conflicts threaten both livelihoods and conservation goals, and proactive solutions are essential. We support the department's ongoing efforts to develop sustainable forestry and fisheries value chains, especially those involving small-scale and community-based enterprises. These industries are essential not only for food security, but also for rural industrialization and inclusive growth. We call for continued transformation and empowerment within these sectors to ensure that historically disadvantaged communities have access to resources, markets, and decision-making power. We encourage the department to continue improving performance, reporting, building institutional capacity, and ensuring that allocated resources reach the intended beneficiaries on the ground. Transparent governance and efficiency in service delivery will go a long way in realizing the department's objectives. In conclusion, House Chair, the IFP supports this budget vote because it reflects a positive, people-centered vision of environmental governance, one that creates jobs, empowers youth, safeguards biodiversity, and addresses our most complex ecological challenges with both compassion and competence. Let us continue to build a South Africa where environmental protection and social upliftment walk hand in hand. I thank you.
Thank you, Honourable Member. The next speaker is the Honourable Boshoff.
Honourable House Chair, thank you very much for the opportunity, and I want to apologise in advance that I have to participate in the other budget debate also in the Good Hope Centre, so I will leave directly afterwards. Honourable Chair and Honourable Minister, I think it is clear that this department is one of the essential departments of any government, even as seen by people or political thought which wants to see small government or less state, because this department is the custodian of upcoming generations. Those who cannot speak for themselves, those who are not present, they are not born yet, and yet they have a vital interest in what happens to our natural environment. And therefore, this can never be a department getting less attention or having its budget cut. We are all, if you ask people now, why are you doing what you are doing, irrespective of what they are doing, they say, I do it for my children, I do it for the next generation. I don't believe many people who say that, because their actions, the way in which they develop mines, the way in which they work with the natural environment, even allowing invasive species on farmland, prosopis trees, that doesn't attest to somebody really trying to work for the next generation. And that is one of the most important human aspects. We are the planning animal. We are the animal which can get away from the natural cycle of feast and famine. The natural way is that if there are resources available, we reproduce in an uncontrolled way, we use up the resources until there's nothing left, and then we die. Now, the humans have the ability to plan, have the ability to be sustainable. And sustainability is a buzzword which is actually stripped of its real value by overuse. Because people often use the word sustainability as if it is just another way of saying viable, commercially viable. Now, commercial viability is of course part of it. It doesn't help that we are successful in a commercial way, in an ecological way, or in an ecological sense, in a way that is commercially unviable, because who's going to pay the bills then? But it also works with the whole idea of being socially benign and ecologically resilient. And that is the core of what the department is busy with. Now, this department participates in the economy through SANParks and through SAFCOL. It also regulates through the department through the program for fisheries and others, and also it is a human rights department in the sense that we have small fishers and people dependent on the forest who have to be protected from ruthless national and multinational corporations who actually, I don't know if there's such an expression in English, but feels a feather, but a fearful for the small-scale actors in these environments. Therefore, one would like to commend an institution like SAFCOL, which makes a profit without any transfer, but we also realize that this is an essential department which needs all transfers it can get. I thank you.
Thank you, Honourable Member. The next speaker is the Honourable Beasley.
Chair, Ministers, Deputy Ministers, colleagues, South Africans. In just 6 months since taking office from July to December 2024, this ministry, under the leadership of Honourable Dion George, has spent a staggering 8.6 million on travel. This extravagant spending spree has seen jet setting to destinations like Bangkok, Rio de Janeiro, New York, and to name but a few. We have asked for updated numbers this year, but if the first 6 months are anything to go by, the numbers aren't looking good. We ask, with limited budget, was this money spent in the best interest of the environment of South Africa? We do not believe so. But beyond our concerns about wasteful travels lies something even more pressing, the mismanagement of South Africa's just energy transition. The decommissioning of the Komati power plant could have been a blueprint, a flagship example of how to transition our energy system with dignity, sustainability, and opportunity. It could have brought new skills, new jobs, and new hope to our communities, all while safeguarding the air we breathe, the water we drink, and the future we owe our children. Instead, what do we have? A project mired in confusion, controversy, and missed potential. Chair, Minister, as a surfer and a lover of the ocean, it is sad to see the devastation that the country's sewage system, the sewage crisis, is having on our rivers, oceans, and environment in general. This is something that needs greater attention and a concern with so many ministries, ministers, and deputy ministers that this important issue falls between the cracks. A similar concern is the impact of plastics and microplastics on our rivers, oceans, and environment. Chair, as a rational and constructive party, Action SA will support this budget vote, not because we are totally satisfied, but because there are critical programs that deserve to be funded and must be funded. In conclusion, As custodians of the environment, it's important that we unite and do all we can to protect our beautiful environment for future generations. We cannot fail in this regard. I thank you.
Thank you, Honourable Member. The next speaker is the Honourable Deputy Minister Singh.
Thank you very much, Honourable Chairperson. I greet the honourable members that are here, Portfolio Committee Chair and all the honourable members, my colleague, Minister George, DM Swartz, and the DFFE team. Unfortunately, honourable members, with the very limited time that I have, I will not be able to respond to some of the colleagues, but I just wish I had the luxury of time to respond to all of them. But let me respond generally to the issue of budget. Every single department wants more budget. I think we all need to appreciate and understand where we find ourselves as a country at this moment in time. And it's not due to what's happening in our country only, but it's a global crisis that we are facing. But if the committee would have recommended in their report that we get more budget, we would have really welcomed that. I don't see that in the committee's recommendation, because I'm sure, Chairperson, the majority of members realize that what is being proposed by some members of the committee will not work. So let me speak about the developmental state. One of the honourable members speaks about the developmental state. One of the programs I'm responsible for, delegated in the department, is the EP programs. And if you look at the EP environmental programs and what has been achieved, in the last financial year, over 70,000 jobs or work opportunities were provided to people mainly in rural communities. 32,000 full-time equivalents were provided to people. With the budget that we are going to have in the MTF of about 9 billion rand, 2.9 billion rand will be used in this financial year. And here again, over 70,000 work opportunities will be created with full-time equivalents. Now, if that's not contributing to a developmental state, then I don't know what is. So I think sometimes we really got to look at the figures, listen properly in the portfolio committees to understand exactly what the department is doing and how we are promoting these issues. As far as the youth are concerned, we've got a provincial youth graduate training program which will benefit 4,000 graduates, and we are allocating 100 million rand across all 9 provinces. We have a dedicated municipal graduate program which will benefit 430 graduates at a cost of 47.5 million. And this is coming from the Department of Forestry, Fisheries and Environment, not economic development. So we are making a contribution to the developmental state and to the economy of this country. As far as EPW is concerned, we are concerned as an executive about the fact that the middleman is making a lot of money in terms of paying out wages to those that work. We are changing that system to ensure that maximum amount goes to people on the ground, because that is what EPWP is all about. On compliance and enforcement, and an Honourable Swartz would like this, we are relatively pleased with the kind of progress we've made. We've got over 3,000 compliance and enforcement officers in the department and across Sandparks and everybody else. There have been varying degrees of success and challenges when it comes to compliance and enforcement. We are engaging with the National Prosecuting Authority, and I'm very glad, Honourable Chairperson of the committee, that one of the recommendations of your committee was that you want to engage with the NPA. And perhaps you must do that with the Portfolio Committee of Justice. Because we find that although these matters are reported, there aren't enough prosecutions. It's way under 50% in terms of prosecutions, but we are pleased with some of the convictions that we've seen, where in terms of somebody who possessed pangolins, you're not supposed to possess that, was given a 10-year sentence, and that's very, very good, a very harsh sentence, which is positive. In the waste sector, a company out in KwaZulu-Natal was issued a fine of 10 million rand. That's positive. And in the oceans and coast sector, we had a gentleman who was accused, and he was given a 10-year prison term following his conviction for illegal possession and dealing in abalone. In the rhino poaching sector as well, there are some very harsh fines, but as I say, honourable members, honourable chair, much more could be done if we have better coordination with the NPA. As far as the aquaculture sector is concerned, we are looking at promoting aquaculture not only along the coastlines, but inland. Inland fisheries is very important. Rural communities will benefit from that. We've already got some pilot programs as far as aquaculture is concerned. We have identified certain unused farm dams that could be used for aquaculture, and we're looking at that especially for the young people. The honorable member spoke about human-wildlife conflict. This is a serious matter, and it's a matter which honorable community members came before the committee to talk about the challenges they are having in various parts of the province and reserves. We are dealing with this as a department. It is not easy, but what we have decided to do as a department is to facilitate a 2-day indaba, starting on the 12th of August, which is World Elephant Day, where we will be calling hundreds of people together, community members, scientists, people from the UN, AU, our neighboring countries, to talk about how we deal with the human-wildlife conflict. Because it is a serious matter, but priority is to protect humans and protect the loss of their infrastructure. Finally, Honorable Chairperson, I would like to say that Section 24 of our Constitution behoves us to guarantee the right to an environment that is not harmful to the health or well-being, and mandates the protection of the environment through reasonable measures. This planet must be protected for future generations, and we, collectively in this House and other partners, have the responsibility to protect this environment for future generations. Thank you very much.
Thank you, Deputy Minister. The next speaker is the Honourable Swart.
Thank you, Chairperson, Honourable Minister. We do indeed live in a country that is blessed with amazing biodiversity, abundant maritime resources, rich forestry assets, and the most beautiful landscapes imaginable. And I live in Gansbaai, and the proteas are starting to bloom. The southern right whales are returning to our shores to carve. And so the ACDP agrees with you, Honourable Minister. These are not just natural wonders to admire, but they are also the foundations for increased job creativity, tourism, food security, sustainable livelihoods. We are, however, called to be good stewards of these resources. And today, as we consider the budget allocation of 9.08 billion rand to the department and its various entities, it's very clear that there are financial constraints that one has to work within. Now, Section 24B of the Constitution stipulates that all South Africans have the right to an environment that is not harmful to their health or well-being. In this regard, the ACDP would again like to express its deepest condolences to all the families who lost loved ones during the recent Eastern Cape floods, with the death toll now more than 100. What is incredibly sad is that in the 1996 Mozambique floods, 5 South African Air Force Oryx helicopters rescued 14,391 people from roofs and trees. It's absolutely scandalous that in these recent floods, a lone Oryx helicopter was deployed a week later. Far too little, far too late, resulting in the loss of lives. And this, of course, is due to underfunding of the SANDF. Honourable Minister and Deputy Minister Singh, you've highlighted a number of achievements during your short term of office, and the ACDP commends you in this regard. And Deputy Minister Singh, I do appreciate the comments about law enforcement and the progress that has been done there, and I would suggest a meeting with the NPA. And I'd also suggest that you approach the criminal asset recovery account for funding for law enforcement. There is funds there. And you and the Minister can definitely access those funds to assist with law enforcement. As there is also the lack of progress with the draft animal welfare bill, although not under your department, Minister, it's important to note that I, in the last Parliament, tabled a very innocuous bill, the Animal Protection Bill, and that was not passed because of the awaiting this animal welfare bill. And so this is an issue which needs to be addressed. We're also concerned about the appalling elephant situation at Madikwe Game Reserve, and we welcome the fact that the committee has expressed outrage about that. We also appreciate the support for small fisheries, small harbours, and there's much that can be done there. Today alone, There was indication from companies like the Cape Fish Market that they want to invest in small harbors, so a lot can be done there. But lastly, Chairperson, I appreciate my time has expired, but I want to thank the DG, I want to thank the officials that work very hard. I want to thank the ministry officials, the minister, DMs, for the very hard work they do under very difficult financial
Member, your time has
constraints
expired.
to protect our environment. Thank you, Chairperson.
Thank you. The next speaker is the Honourable Deputy Minister Swartz.
Honorable House Chair, let me start by reminding us that we share only one planet which we must care for and conserve for the benefit of all. Honorable members, I must stress the alarming scale of e-waste in South Africa. While we produce over 360 tons of e-waste each year, only 10% is managed properly, with the rest ending up in landfills or illegally dumped, posing a severe threat to our ecosystems. To address this issue, South Africa implemented the extended producer responsibility legislation in 2021, which requires producers of electronic products waste to take responsibility for their products recycling. Honorable members, our e-waste recycling pilot project has already been launched in the provinces of Mpumalanga, Limpopo, and Northwest. We have collected an average of 30 tons of e-waste from rural municipalities. Honorable members, I will now talk to the work we have implemented to the forestry management. The department is committed to efficiency processing all licensing applications related to forest activities as specified in sections 7, 15, and 23 of the National Forest Act. As DFFE, we have set a target to complete this process within 90 days from the date of receipt of each application, provided all necessary documentation is submitted. Honorable members, significant progress has been made in the development of the Fire Protection Association support strategy and the assessment of FPAs. The strategy is nearing completion and has undergone a public consultation process. Once it has been reviewed and recommended by various intergovernmental structures and working groups, it will be submitted for approval to the Minister and published by the end of 2025-26. In the fifth year of implementing the Commercial Forestry Master Plan, the department is focused on growing the economy, driving transformation, and creating jobs. This is a partnership between government, industry, and organized labor. In line with the plan, the department is currently leading the process to transfer management of 8 DFFE-owned plantations and communities through community forestry, and as part of the transition, communities will receive post support. During the 2024-25 financial year, SANBI completed 2040 infrastructure maintenance and 10 new infrastructure development projects in the National Botanical and Zoological Gardens, contributing to the growth and sustainability of SMMEs and job creation. SANBI ran the Kids in Gardens Environmental Education Program, reaching a total of 156,000 individuals, mainly children and young people. This initiative aims to promote environmental awareness and encourage students to pursue careers in fields related to biodiversity. Under the G20 presidency, DLDD has been recognized as a standalone priority. South Africa is committed to sustainable land management and the restoration of degraded landscapes, addressing challenges related to food security, poverty, and urbanization, climate change, and biodiversity loss. As part of the efforts to address, the department is implementing the GEF 7 funded mainstreaming sustainable land management for large-scale impact projects in the Limpopo and Northern Cape provinces. The project has trained 129 community champions and extension officers in SLM practices, awarding Agri-SETA accredited certificates. It has also provided employment for 174 individuals to carry out ecological restoration activities, including the removal of invasive alien plant species in Mpumalanga and Rietfontein town in the Northern Cape province. Last month, I attended the Community Environment Workshop in mainstreaming land degradation neutrality into integrated land use of planning policies, tools, and involving 18 countries and 60 delegates, which was hosted by us as South Africa. the 18 countries, the workshop serves as a platform to share experiences and leverage knowledge from partners partnering in the LDN Target Cycling Program 2.0 and the GF-funded enabling activities supporting implementation. Addressing the persistent struggles of small-scale fisheries is a crucial priority for the Fisheries Management Branch and the department to this end. I recently hosted the Small-Scale Fishing Cooperative Summit in Mthatha on the 20th of May. The summit aimed to foster engagement between government and fishing communities, fishing exhibitions and technical discussions led by industry experts. It also aligned the implementation of the small-scale fishery policy and marine living resources. The summit was attended by 72 cooperatives in the Eastern Capes, along with their mentors. This summit is just not about talk. It's the starting point in solving real persistent issues that hold small-scale fisheries back. In conclusion, honorable members, allow me to thank my colleagues in the GNU, our Minister, Dr. Dion George, and Deputy Minister Singh. I also extend my deepest gratitude to the DFFE team, headed by Director Ms. Nomfunda Shabalala, the chairpersons and board members and CEOs of our entities, and their leadership and dedication are instrumental in our success. I thank you.
Thank you, Honourable Deputy Minister. The next speaker is the Honourable Peach.
Thank you very much, House Chairperson. This budget cycle has necessitated reductions across all departments due to a stagnating economy. This stems from decades of counterproductive ideologies, mismanagement, incompetence through cadre deployment, and with the greatest destroyer of service delivery budgets being state capture, the legacy of which will haunt us as long as the billions of government loans still need to be repaid and the Zondo report needs to be implemented. This department faces a budget of 9.08 billion for 2025-2026, representing only 0.35% of national appropriations. This is the first time this has dropped below 0.4% of appropriations. This represents an unfortunate real decrease of 121.5 million rand, but fortunately only 1.4% when adjusted for inflation. Transfers to entities like Sandparks, Sambi, and SORS has decreased from 1.42 billion to 1.33 billion in 2025-2026. And hopefully this will increase in the later years or as GDP increases. However, I believe Minister George has embraced this situation as both a challenge and an opportunity. He contributes to fiscal responsibility and debt reduction while creating new business cases for conservation through the biodiversity economy strategy and growing green jobs through the just energy transition. Despite significant cuts, Minister George has increased the departmental annual performance plan targets from 42 to 52. And these targets have also been further stretched. This shows a commitment to doing more with less, while remaining true to the GNU's principles. These new targets include schools reached for environmental awareness, support for wildlife trafficking cases, the rehabilitation of degraded ecosystems, carbon budgets, mitigation plans, the hosting of the G20, and of course, the improving of operational fishing harbors. These deliver real services that people can see and feel. While budget cuts have reduced infrastructure spending within various entities, this does not compromise services. Rather, this represents victories for both fiscal prudence as well as service delivery. Minister George, under these fiscal constraints, have achieved tangible victories for our environment as well as for the economy. And some of these victories include the regulatory reform through RESET. This is the regulatory efficiency strategy for for environmental turbocharge, which has delivered transformative regulatory reforms and fast-tracking the approvals of 11 renewable energy development zones, cutting application times from 300 days down to almost 70 days. The national web-based environmental screening tool further streamlines environmental assessments while maintaining crucial protections. When driving the economic growth, Minister George has increased fish species allocations to small-scale fishers by 36%, boosting coastal economy, whilst the harbour revitalisation program has created over 2,300 job opportunities. When protecting our biodiversity heritage, Minister George has also secured a landmark court settlement for African penguin protection and implementing island closures around critical breeding colonies through the amended small pelagic fishery permit conditions. Under these successes are our conservation institutions, which continue to excel under the KISS strategy, such as Kirstenbosch, who was named among the top 10 botanical gardens globally. But let's look at some further targets. Sandparks, targeting 5.7 million visitors annually. Isimangalisu, targeting 75,000 hectares of invasive alien plants and 3,000 cubic meters of wetland rehabilitation. And Sanbi, with 50 infrastructure projects to be delivered annually. In the fields of enforcement and anti-poaching, the monitoring and control and surveillance patrols of our exclusive economic zones continue without a direct memorandum of understanding with the South African Navy and Air Force. This must be rectified, Minister, and mandated. These achievements all prove that this government and Minister George care not only for the environment, but also for the people of South Africa, and in turn, bringing the constitutional mandate of a clean environment for all to life. Thank you very much.
Thank you, Honourable Member. The next speaker is the Honourable Makasi.
Honourable Chairperson, the Minister and Deputy Ministers, Honourable Members present, the entities and officials present, led by the DG, Nomfundo Chabalala, and fellow South Africans. As this Youth Month draws to a close, allow me to borrow from the famous words of President Howard Tambo and say, open quote, a country, a movement, a person that does not value its youth and children does not deserve its future, close quote. Let this be a stark reminder that the youth of every generation has a mission to fulfill. Therefore, it must be valued and empowered. Honourable members, the budget is a fundamental instrument and catalyst for change towards the realization of our development agenda. The 9.08 billion allocated to the Department of Forestry, Fisheries and Environment should be geared towards fulfilling the mandate of the department and its entities in the most efficient and effective manner, notwithstanding fiscal constraint and budget cuts. The expectation still remains for them to advance their developmental mandate and contribute towards creating a capable, ethical, and developmental state. SOEs play a pivotal role towards employment creation, thereby decreasing the poverty and unemployment rate while narrowing the inequality gap. Honourable Chairperson, according to Stats SA, the official unemployment rate in South Africa for the first quarter of 2025 was 32.9%, which represents an increase of 1.0 percentage point from 31.9% in the fourth quarter of 2024. The number of employed individuals decreased by 16.8 million, while the number of unemployed individuals increased to 8.2 million, majority of whom are youth aged between 15 and 34 years at 46.1%. More young people must benefit from the maintenance, developments, and infrastructure projects that will be undertaken through SOS, Isamangaliso, Sand Parks, and Sanbi, with an allocation of 417.53 million over the medium term. Fellow South African, in its manifesto, the African National Congress has identified putting South Africa to work as an apex priority, targeting to put 2.5 million people to work through public employment programs that create work opportunities in the public, small businesses, social sectors over the medium term. It is against this backdrop that we support that the department's prioritization of the following programs, which will contribute towards the reduction of unemployment to 6% by 2030. The Climate Change Act, we should implement it, and cleaning the green program. Kruger Kirstenbosch Isimangaliso Icon Status Strategy, which is also KISS, which aims to transform these iconic sites into world-class destinations that set new standards for conservation, education, and sustainable tourism. Fair industry for lions, leopards, elephants, and rhinos, focusing on ensuring a fair and sustainable future for South Africa's iconic wildlife, as well as fishing for freedom, which connects local communities to the ocean economy while promoting marine conservation through the implementation of Oceans Economy Master Plan. The revitalization of the proclaimed fishing harbors also continues to be a priority as a means of create economic opportunities in coastal fishing communities. We welcome the construction of Buchebai Harbour, which is geared to support existing fishing, agriculture, mining, and green hydrogen sectors. This will have a positive impact on job creation, skills development, youth employment, and investment attraction. That being said, Honorable Chairperson, allow us to register our disappointment and concern regarding the budget reduction on Program 6, environmental programs whose purpose is to ensure the implementation of the expanded public works program. While the budget for the whole program increased by 3.9% after adjusting for inflation, this amount in real terms decreases by 0.7%, which culminates to 20.5 million. We implore on the department to find alternative means to fully fund the expanded public works program, which contributes a pivotal and main source of income for many families. As it relates to waste management, we have noted that the limited funds restrict the adoption of advanced waste processing technologies, and more research must be developed around the World Bank model that proposes waste management at municipalities as standalone business entities, enabling them to secure a capital infrastructure and enhance logistic efficiently. On small-scale fisheries, it has become glaring that support has been varying, resulting in the 171 cooperatives displaying unequal performance. The ANC supports the commitment of the committee recommendations to form strategic public-private partnership, PPPs, for the overall success of small-scale fishing sector. Honorable members, as I conclude, we must welcome the allocation of the 553.2 million towards the Oceans and Coast program. This program is responsible for managing the 1.5 million square kilometers of the exclusive economic zone, the EEZ, which is crucial for job creation and economic development as part of the ocean's economy. The ANC support the budget vote. I thank you.
Thank you, Honourable Member. The next speaker is the Honourable Minister.
Thank you, House Chair. Thank you, honourable members, for your inputs. Honourable Gancho, yes, indeed, the Climate Change Act is a world leader and a powerful mechanism to respond to climate change already causing death and destruction across our country, affecting our most vulnerable people. Our deepest condolences go to the families of our people who lost their lives in the Eastern Cape and KZN. The next phase of climate response will be supporting our municipalities and provinces to develop and roll out their climate responses. This is a collaborative effort, and together we will provide a very powerful response into the future. Honourable de Block, we do have vultures, some still among us, who think it's acceptable to waste money when our people are struggling with food security. I assure you, the DFFE under my ministry will be efficient, and we will act very decisively on wastage. The weavers will win. Honourable Mkhize, my condolences on the loss of your colleague. We are focused on containing administrative costs. I agree our focus must be on service delivery on the front line, rather than heavy management structures. We must always focus on value for money, and I've initiated reviews on projects where I've been unhappy with amounts spent and the value add. Honourable Dr. Managa, yes indeed, our budget is tight and underfunded. The key issue here is that our economy is not growing fast enough. If we make the right economic policy choices, we will get more tax into the fisc and will have more available then to provide the services that we must. Our carbon market initiative in particular has enormous potential, and we will see progress on this in the short term. Honourable Langa, if we leverage our natural assets as effectively as possible, we will see economic growth that is inclusive. The concept of the mega living landscapes strives to manage human-wildlife conflict and creates a people-centric focus on conservation. We don't want to lock people out or lock our natural resources up. We want to be able to leverage them sustainably for the benefit of the people that are living in close proximity in the first instance. Honourable Boshoff, I know he had to leave. As the custodian of the future generation, the DFFE is strongly focused on ensuring the sustainability of our environment. We need to find a balance between ecology and economic growth. That is why we are proceeding very cautiously on the fracking regulations, given that 91% of our country is already water scarce. Honourable Beasley, if you took the time to read the mandate of this department, you would know that it has an international mandate. South Africa is a respected, non-aligned and strong global citizen, and we must be at the table on climate matters, ocean matters, fisheries matters, chemicals and waste, etc. Our scientists are world leaders, and they must collaboratively connect with their international counterparts, and they will continue to do that. So yes, there will be travel. We can't fulfill our mandate without it. If we're not at the table, we have no voice, and that is not in the interest of our people. Honourable Swart, disaster management, yes, we must get better at it, because climate events are going to accelerate. That is why we must remain steadfast in our journey to decarbonisation. Our small harbours are not in acceptable condition, and we are missing out on economic opportunities in our harbour economy. We have started a process to improve the harbours, and we've already seen visible improvements, and we are collaborating and discussing with departments responsible for the infrastructure on the harbours, because that is where the crux of the problem lies. Honourable Peach, yes, indeed, our biodiversity strategy has enormous potential, as does our carbon market initiative. Crucially, we need to be creative. The money will always be limited, but we can navigate this, and we can get ahead of the curve, and we can lead rather than follow. As mentioned by Honourable Beasley, I do travel internationally, and wherever I go, I find the most remarkable South Africans, scientists who are world leaders in their field, like our Gullis too is. Very clever people, who are way ahead of their curve, who have not been leveraged well enough by us. And that's something that I'm focused very heavily on, because South Africa is creative, we're ahead in science, our young people are clever, they've got amazing opportunities ahead of them, and we must harness that. And I'm very animated about that. Honourable Makaza, our youth are the strongest assets, and we must focus on opportunities. We want to give them the best opportunities they can get in life. As government, it is our job to create that environment so that they can flourish and become everything that they're capable of becoming. We have a mega diverse country, and we have enough resources to build a resilient economy. We must just make the right choices. And as our economy opens up, we'll have more available so that we can provide more also for our environmental programs, because that is a very important thing. Thank you very much, House Chairperson, and thank you very much, honourable members.
Thank you, Honourable Minister. Honourable members, that concludes the debate in the business of this mini plenary session. The mini plenary will now rise.